Welcome to another episode of In the Garden with Margie. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the watering system. One of the most time intensive parts of having a garden is the watering. But with advanced planning, it doesn't have to be. In fact, if you get yourself a timer to turn the water on and off, you'll almost feel guilty that you don't have to spend more time in the garden. Almost. When we first started the garden, I wanted to set up soaker hoses. So the first thing I did was measure the area surrounding the entire garden, which included how much distance there was to each turn in the garden and where we needed to put the soaker hoses. I bought half-inch poly tubing and the necessary extras for corners. Now make sure to also buy some attachments for in case any holes end up in your tubing. I then bought the small 1/4-inch soaker hose. Now soaker hose is hose that has little holes in it, so when the water is on, it soaks out into the soil without spraying the plants. Using soaker hoses helps you make the most out of the water you use and can help keep your water bill down. And plants don't like to be sprayed either. That can result in more bugs, fungus, and mold. In the garden center of your hardware store or local nursery, there's a wealth of different attachments, and it's actually a lot of fun to look at all your options. I chose to get these little knobs that turn the soakers on and off from the main line. This comes in really handy when it's early in the season and not everything has been planted yet, or if some plants need less water than others. This year, it was time to replace the soaker hose because as time goes on, the little holes get clogged up. I purchased 6 rolls of 50-foot hose, and then I unrolled them out into the sun so they'd straighten out. After the hose was straightened out, I then laid out what I needed for each raised bed and cut off the extra. Now, when you buy your little attachments, be sure to also include some of the extenders so when you want to add more hose, you can do it really easily like I did here. This prevents wasting the hose cut from other areas. I then crimped the ends and wrapped them with some baling wire, so when the water's turned on, it won't just all go flowing out the end. Then, because we're about to have a couple days of rain and there's no point in keeping the hose on the ground quite yet, I rolled it all back up and hung each hose by each raised bed. Once the plants are in the ground, I'll put the hose out for the season and set the timer, and I'm good to go. Now, don't feel that if you're growing your vegetables in pots that you can't set up a watering system, because you can. Even if they're flowers, you can set this up, which is really cool. Do you have a watering system suggestion? If so, I'd love to hear about it, but also feel free to share other topics you'd like to see me cover, or share your best tips, or ask questions. As I've said before, this is a learning process for all of us, and I love to hear what others have learned. And with that, thank you for joining me for this episode of In the Garden with Margie.